Hey y'all, it's Lola the Manager, your new favorite project manager, tech junkie, and entrepreneur. Welcome back to season 2 of Life as a Project Manager. Last week, we kicked off with migration versus implementation projects. And today, we're diving into something that's happened to me multiple times while in my career. Have you ever landed a role titled project manager, only to find out you're doing everything but project management? Today, I'm sharing my most recent experience and what you should do when this happens to you. So let me give you some context about where I was in my career when this opportunity came up. As many of you know from my Life with Lola series, I had experienced burnout and was rebuilding my career. I was specifically looking for short-term gigs just to get myself acclimated in doing work. So as many of you know from that series, my last contract ended in August. And so I've been taking a lot of me time while actively looking for different roles, which is why a lot of my Life with Lola series shows me doing a lot of different interviews, and I'm just picking up small gigs here and there. When I saw this posting for a temporary project coordinator, I was like, perfect. This is exactly what I need right now. Contract work with a reputable company, and this is just a standard process improvement project. Yeah, go ahead, sign me up. As a matter of fact, let me go ahead and pull up the job description so I can read it to you, because I want you to know that the amount of red flags that was in this description is insane, and there was actually no reason for me to move forward with this, but I did anyways. So it says temporary project coordinator, but then in the first bullet, it says serve as project manager for contract amendment project. What? That right there should have been a red flag number 1, because you're mixing job titles. In a lot of different job descriptions, you'll read it as a business analyst as a title, but then when you're looking at the description, it's a project manager. You'll read it as a project manager in the title, and then you read the description, it's a scrum master. Like, hello, do we not know the difference between these roles? Yes, there are overlaps, but a project manager and a project coordinator, 2 different type of things. And I personally was not in a space where I wanted to kind of fully dive back into full project management work. And I just wanted to get my feet a little warm, because if y'all go back and look at my Life with Lola series, specifically episode 1, you would see how much burnout I was experiencing and the fact that I was functioning. I don't even know how I did it, but let's get back to the description. Then it talks about using Salesforce to send contracts, manage adoption, communication with contributors. It all sounded pretty straightforward to me, not gonna lie. What I didn't catch was the vague language around implementation, or lack thereof, and how they mix customer support responsibilities with project management. There was also no mention of team size and who I'd be working with. But honestly, like I said, I was focused on getting back in the groove of things. So clearly, I overlooked these warning signs. So the interview process was pretty standard, or so I thought. They asked me about my Salesforce experience, which I have plenty from previous roles. It's actually a variety in the ways in which I utilize Salesforce, because at one company, I owned Salesforce. So Salesforce was a platform in which I managed all of the feature updates and projects that were developing for that platform. But then in another space, I was using Salesforce as an actual CRM. But then in another space, I was using Salesforce as a process, a workflow in which we would do the print part of our marketing campaigns. So it was just kind of like, okay, well, she knows Salesforce, we want Salesforce, let's bring her on. They asked about managing timelines and communicating with stakeholders, but here's what they didn't ask. They never asked me about API integrations, process design, or technical troubleshooting. Now, later on, you're gonna find out that they didn't know that they needed to ask me all those things, because they really didn't even know what the problem and or solution was. So I really was someone coming through that looked like they could fix whatever issue they were having. Also, they really couldn't even adequately explain what the process was to me. They kind of just mentioned, well, last year, this is kind of like what we did a little bit. And you know, our last girl, she really tried and blah, 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 blah. It was just, yeah, okay, thanks. And so though all these red flags were flying high, I kind of just interpreted it as, okay, you just need someone a little more organized and structured to help get this solution developed. At no point did I really think that I would be boots on the ground at this company.
Whoa, whoa, I got my boots on the ground.
I was like, wait, what? Wait, excuse me? Espérate, dime, what? Don't we need a plan? Like, first of all, I don't even have access to my laptop. I also don't even have access to the different software that we're going to be using. And you want this to go live Friday and you don't even have a solid plan in place? Where's the exit? Where's the exit? Here's where it gets interesting. It took them literally 2 weeks to give me full access to my computer and all the platforms. So Salesforce, DocuSign, SharePoint, all of that. So realistically, even though y'all wanted this launched at this time, there was no way to actually get that done because the person that has to kind of figure this out doesn't have access to what they need. But also, this is like where I had a chance to kind of push back, and I'm like, what is the driving force? Because why do we need to go live in 5 days? Why do we need to go live next week? Like, what's going on? And then this is where you got to kind of get into the weeds and really try to understand what's happening here, so then I can actually develop a solution, come up with a plan or something. But I didn't waste those 2 weeks. During those 2 weeks, I spent time trying to understand what happened last year. So this contract amendment project that they have going on, they did this project last year. There was documentation from the previous coordinator, but it was very like scatterbrained, and so I was dissecting that, and some of it I was just like, yeah, I'm just not gonna use. So I'm over here pretty much like playing detective, trying to piece together, okay, what is it that y'all were trying to do and what did y'all actually do? How did this even work? And then I also spent a lot of my time talking to everyone, kind of meeting with people one-on-one and like, hey, so tell me about last year. Tell me about what went well, what didn't work well. Like, what's up? Give me the tea. Like, I'm trying to figure these things out because I also don't have access to systems. So I have access to people, so let me utilize them. Let me understand. Some of them I was able to get them to kind of share me their screen and walk me through stuff. Some of them were giving me access to stuff that I didn't know that I needed access to and then realized I didn't even have access to. It was just, ay Dios, it was a lot. Now, once I finally got into all the systems that I needed, I got access to every single thing that I could possibly need to function here. And I started getting into the weeds of the stakeholder interviews. I was meeting with the editorial team, legal team, product team, just really kind of understanding the full scope of what's taking place. It dawned on me, this isn't project coordination or project management. Surprise! This is full-scale business analyst and process design. But here's the thing. I was the only person doing this project. No one here was coming to save me. No one was actually going to do the work. There was no team, there's no technical support, and look, no shade, no tea. But the tech department, IT, is about 2.5 men. Look, if I'm lying, I'm flying. 2.5 men. Which I don't understand. This is such a reputable company. It's huge. It's been around here for years. And IT is 2.5 men. It ain't, nobody can help me for real. I asked IT a question. They're like, we don't do that in this department. The laugh of frustration, okay? So I was really just here trying to come up with a process that I can automate and also do it on my own, meaning I'm everything. I'm the person that came up with the idea, and then I'm the person that has to implement the idea. And who was gonna be my support? The platform tech support. So the only people that I had to actually help me was me contacting Salesforce, help desk, me contacting DocuSign, help desk. We had someone that was assigned to us at DocuSign that I could work with, but only to redirect me to their tech support. So I had that, and then I had SharePoint, right? So I'm talking to Microsoft like, hey, what's up? Only to find out our access was expired. Ew, child. When I look back, I really just be like, girl, where are you? Where are you? Now, I know you're probably thinking, Lola, why didn't you just quit? And trust me, it came across my mind. I thought about it. It wasn't like, oh, I can't, I could. I do have free will. Thank you, God. Okay. But here's the thing. Here's the thing about me. I'm pretty tech savvy. And what might be a red flag and scares others away, it actually excites me. I know that's actually scary, that I get excited in chaos. I love a good challenge. I also realized that while I wasn't aware of how deep this process would get, I had the right skill set to tackle it. My business consulting background, process improvement experience, and business analyst skills meant that I could ask the right questions to get us moving in the right direction. I'm big on understanding the big picture and then reverse engineering processes to try to figure out how to get to the end goal. So I decided to stick it out and see what I could accomplish. Crazy. The question a lot of people ask me, especially when I've actually shared this story before, is how how did you know you could actually do this work? And honestly, I didn't know for sure, but I had confidence in my ability to figure it out. If there's one thing I could do, I could figure it out. I may not be able to solve what I figured out, but I could figure this out. From my previous PM roles, I had done business analyst work and process optimization. My Salesforce experience meant I understood data management and workflow automation. I'm also just really good at researching and troubleshooting. If I don't know something, I'll figure it out. That's probably the most valuable skill I've developed in my career. The ability to learn on the fly and connect the dots that other people's miss. I'm gonna ask the questions, I'm gonna deep dive and figure it out. And if that was any advice I could give to you as a project manager, is get into the weeds and figure it out. And it doesn't mean you have to do the work. I just want to emphasize this. Project managers do not do the work. But if you ask the questions, you dig deep, and even if you're watching others do the work, add that to your bag. You feel me? You never know when it comes in handy. You might be able to assist one little way, or you may be able to transition careers if you find yourself more interested in that. And so I'm always allowing myself to get lost in figuring things out. Now, let's talk about the work that I actually did. I'm going to tell you the job titles and what that consists of, okay? Boom. Business analyst work, conducting user interviews with the editorial, legal, and product teams. Process engineer, designing automated workflows and identifying system inefficiencies. Systems administrator, troubleshooting API connections between Salesforce, DocuSign, and SharePoint. Solutions architect, creating both short-term fixes and long-term strategic solutions. Customer success, managing communications with 2,000 plus contributors. Technical support, resolving bounced emails and system integration issues. That was 6 different job titles, and none of them were project manager. So if there is a pro tip I can provide, when you are at these different companies, document all the different things that you do, because it may not fall into your job title. And that's not to say to not do it, that's just to track the different things that you've done. This also helps you with negotiating salary, bonuses, raises at current companies and future companies, because you are someone that has a varied skill set. You're cross-trained in other areas, and a lot of companies, they like that. Now, I do have a video on TikTok where I actually go into more in depth of exactly what the project entailed and what I was doing, and you can go and check it out there. I also have it available here on YouTube Shorts. You can check it out. But I just wanted to talk about how I entered a space that I wasn't supposed to be in. Now, while in these 6 roles, I was able to identify what the actual challenge that the company was having, which was they needed to send out contract amendments to 2,000 plus contributors with high completion rates, meaning they need these documents signed. And last year when they did it, they only had 40% return. So this year they're hoping with my expertise and this automated process that we're able to get more signatures, a higher completion. So if they had 40% last year, my baseline would be, hey, can I get to 41%? I know in my interviews that they actually were looking at 70 to 80, and I'm happy to report that we actually hit 97% completion, which means that my solution was very effective, that part. So I know a part of you is kind of like, okay, Lola, so what exactly made this role not project management? Walk with me. There was no stakeholder management. I was the one doing the technical implementation. I did the work. There's no team leadership. I was working solo on the technical solution. There was no business analyst. There was no process engineer. There was no solutions architect. It was just me, Lola and Lola and Lola and Lola and Lola and Lola. It was all of us. Just Lola. That sounds insane, don't it? No budget management. So I was optimizing an existing tool and there was no money involved. The only money involved was me telling them, hey, our Microsoft access has expired. Pay it to bring it back to life. That was closest thing to budget, honestly. No risk management meetings. I was hands-on problem solving. So like in standard project management, you identify the risk and then you kind of assign it to someone who it's their job to mitigate, avoid, all that type of stuff. Like they handle that risk. We'll have a meeting and discuss it. I was meeting with Lola. Yeah, she was the only person that could help me. If there was an issue and a risk, like girl, get to work. And so like I said, this was business analyst, process engineering, and systems administration. Maybe I can be a systems admin. Now let's talk about what you should do if you find yourself in this situation where the dream that was sold was a lie. You are not doing the work that you were paid to do or that you thought you were going to be doing. Step 1, document everything, okay? Document everything. Keep detailed notes of your actual responsibilities. Track the skills you're using versus your PM skills. Document the value you're creating. Now, one of the reasons I always tell people to document everything that they're doing at work, like I mentioned before, when it comes to evaluations, you can use that to your benefit. Also, if you're documenting things and you realize that there's actually more work to be done, that could potentially help the contract get extended. So one of the things that me and my manager were talking about was how we actually need a better solution. This is what we came up with in the interim because this was a very short contract. We need a better, more long-term solution that's going to require an actual project manager and actually working with other team members and bringing other contractors on. That's going to cost and that's going to take time. And so if the company had the money, they could have extended my contract to now help execute that project. Or let's say my contract ends and then later on down the line, they get the money for it. They can actually just spin the block and say, hey, Lola, we've got the budget, the resources, and we're ready to move forward with this project. Do you want to come on board? We just wanted to reach out to you first before, reaching out to other folks. And so document it all, okay? Step 2, have the conversation. Have the conversation. Schedule time with your manager. Present what you've discovered about the role. Propose either role clarification or title adjustment. As y'all know that this was a project coordinator role, but I kid you not, everyone in the company, every person I worked with called me a project manager. And it's funny because I was neither. And later on, I'll talk about how this is listed on my resume, but you can apply to different job titles, and while you're at work, your job title can change. Job titles really don't matter. They adjust. You might say that this is your job title, but you do way more than that, and we need to kind of adjust it to better fit what you actually do. Employers are always down to do that, but it starts with a conversation. Step 3, leverage it for your career. On your resume, lead process optimization initiative resulting in 97% completion rate. Ooh, don't that sound spicy? I like that. In interviews, show your versatility and your problem solving skills. For future roles, highlight your cross-functional capabilities. And so after this contract, I've applied and interviewed to a lot of different roles. I make sure that I leverage the type of work that I did at this company, even though it was not project management. I use that as different type of skills, technical skills, business skills that I have, and I put that on my resume. Also, in my interview, I've learned to adjust my storytelling and how I talk about what I did in this role. And one of the main things I talk about is how they brought me on as a project manager, but we soon learned based on the needs of the organization and this project that I needed to tap into my business analyst bag, right? So I can share that, and then what it shows the employer that I'm interviewing with is that, oh, she actually has a diverse set of skills. She's very agile. We hear that word a lot, don't we, in project management? And so these are things that you can speak to, but you really got to understand what is it that you do so you can learn how to speak to them. Step 4, set boundaries moving forward. Clarify expectations in future job interviews. Ask specific questions about day-to-day responsibilities. Request to speak with current team members in the interview process. Now, me and you, we're different. I know my skill set. I know how I learn, how I function. I know that I like challenges, and I know how to assess situations so I can pivot, adjust, and get the support that I need. Now, the beauty of being a project manager is you do not have to do the work. However, you should know how to help us figure out who needs to do it. At any given point in this project, I had the freedom to say, hey, do we have any business analysts available? Because that would really help with XYZ. I could have done that, but I knew we didn't have any. Like I said, IT department, 2.5 men. I knew that I was going to be out there solo at Area 51, but you have that leverage. Like, I think people think they go into interviews and it's just one-sided. Like, the job talks to you about what they want and you have to do a dog and pony show for them. But really, they got to also do a dog and pony show for you. Like, hey, walk me through a day in a life. And one of the ways in which I use AI, I ask AI to help me get a good viewpoint of what a day in a life, week in a life in this role would look like. Now, one of the things I want to say is sometimes the job descriptions do not adequately describe what's going to happen, which is why you need to prepare yourself to go into these interviews and put that pressure on. Ask them the question. What exactly are we doing? Who are we working with? What systems will we be using? Get into the weeds. Ask those good questions. And that's going to force them to either figure out, maybe she's not a good fit for this, or maybe we actually need some more help. I've been into different job interviews where I've applied pressure and I was able to kind of tell them like, hey, I don't think you guys were looking for a project manager. Like, I do not think that's who you want. I think you actually need an admin assistant or an executive assistant, or I think you actually are looking for a business analyst, which is also fine. I can dabble into business analyst work because I actually like doing that type of work. But you need to understand your role as a project manager, what you're comfortable with doing, what you want to challenge yourself to do, so that you're not out here looking cray. Okay, now I'm not gonna hold you. The silver lining in all of this, you're gaining valuable cross-functional experience. If you ever pay attention to project manager job descriptions, they want to know what's your experience working with cross-functional teams. And the fact that you have some cross-functional experience, that sets you apart from other PMs. You're also building a diverse skill set that also makes you more marketable. I'm very big on being marketable. It's one of the reasons why I'm able to transition so seamlessly into the project management space, specifically the technical project management space. I used to design websites. I used to build websites. I know what it looks like on the back end. So now I know what to look for when I'm managing these implementation projects or managing these web design projects or digital projects. I have the hands-on back end experience. So now I know what to look for and how to ensure that we hit our deliverables, because I used to be someone that had to build the deliverables. You're also proving that you know how to adapt and deliver results. If there's one thing I'm gonna do, baby, I'm gonna deliver. Okay, hey, we had 40% completion last year. We're just looking if we can get a little more, maybe 70%. Baby, I hit them with the 97. You're gonna get results with me. But even all that, make sure you're getting your fair compensation for this expanded scope. So you can negotiate the salary, or let's say they did want to do an extension. My salary was not gonna be the same because I've already done tapped into 6 different roles here. Baby, which one y'all want? And also, you see how I listed those 6 different roles that I was good at? This would be a good time for me to go look at what those salary are for those type of roles. Look at the career path for them. That might be something that I wanna pivot into. Yeah, I know I show a lot of project management interviews and how to be a project manager and all that stuff, but also, like, don't be scared to apply to other type of jobs. I wouldn't mind being a systems admin. I wouldn't mind being a business analyst. So don't be afraid of wearing a different title, and maybe that's just what you do in that season. Maybe right now project management isn't the main bread and butter in this economy. Maybe people need some more system admins. Go there. Like, go where your skills are going to be used, and then milk it as dry as you can. Okay, then go somewhere else. Why not? Project management is going to be here forever. Now, I want to talk about some red flags to look out for, whether it's in the job description, it's in the job interview, or on site, like day 1, week 1. What are some red flags to let you know, hey, abort mission, or let me really think about this if I want to move forward. In the job description, mixing job titles. We saw in the job description here, it was listed as a project coordinator, but in the description, it said project manager. That's the language that they use. We don't want that. There's a lot of different job descriptions where I've applied because it said project manager, but the entitled description is for a business analyst. That's another great way to use AI to help you analyze what the description is saying. There was even one time where I thought it was a project manager. Job description showed a customer support representative. Say what? Don't waste my time. So use AI to help you. Double check to see what language is being used there so that you can adequately decide if you want to move forward with it. Vague language about implementation without specifics. Implementation what? What's happening? You should give me details in the job description, and then you expand in the interview. But you don't leave me hanging in that job description. You get what I'm saying? They didn't really give me any information about implementation. I didn't know what was being implemented, what was being migrated, what was being adjusted. Help me, please. I didn't know, but we made do. Okay. Customer support responsibilities mixed with project management. I do not work with customers. And when I say I don't work with customers, my duty is to stakeholders, right? And if the customer is a stakeholder, then my job is to make sure that I delivered what was needed for that customer. Now, we need to coordinate to figure out how tech support and troubleshooting and what that looks like who's going to help on the ops side. But as far as project management, I don't need to be coordinating with you. But in this project, I did provide that customer support. And I mean, it was a short project, so that's probably the only reason why I was okay with it, because quite frankly, I really don't like talking to that many people all the time. No mention of team size or reporting structure. I didn't really understand what, who, where. I was part of a team, and that was the team that brought me on because they had the contracts. But honestly, in an ideal situation, IT department would have been bigger, or at least product, like the product team would have been bigger. And I was brought on as a PM or a product manager for the platforms that they have within the organization, like the DocuSign or the Salesforce or the SharePoint. Like, I was brought on, and then this is a project that y'all wanted me to do, and it was kind of phased out through IT or product. You get what I'm saying? But the separate individual team having this and not really knowing what their problem was, it was wild. Technical requirements, but no technical team mentioned. As I've stated time and time again, baby, IT was 2.5 men. Where are we supposed to get help with this? The amount of times that I contacted Salesforce and DocuSign in that short amount of time was insane. Like, we were besties by the time I was done with that contract. The amount I've had to share a screen. I was working after hours. I was like, hey, y'all available at this time? I'll be available. I'll make myself available because yeah, we need you. In the interview, what to look out for. They can't clearly explain the current process. So if they want you to come in to kind of help with their process optimization, process improvement, this type of project, if they can't really tell you, what does the life cycle look like? What is the process to get this done? If people are fumbling or I don't really know, just know you're out there with the wolves fighting for your life. No technical stakeholders involved in the interview. A lot of the times when you're interviewing as a project manager, that initial interview with the hiring manager is usually the person who actually needs you on their team, and they fully understand how this process works. They fully understand what the project is, and they may be a stakeholder. If they wanted me to get a feel for the different types of people that utilize this process, then maybe bringing on someone else from their editorial team to kind of provide better insight, because it wasn't as clearly defined. And also, one of the things I do want to point out, it's very hard for people to provide answers to things that they don't really know. Sometimes they can't share the process because they didn't know something about the process until you call it out. And so being agile and flexible and being able to assess, that kind of works in your advantage. But like I said, y'all don't have any real like technical stakeholders or people in here that could kind of give some more insight. Tread lightly. Unrealistic timeline expectations. So in the interview, they initially interviewed me about, I want to say 2 months before the date that I actually started. And when they were interviewing me, they were saying that we needed someone immediately because we have X, Y, and Z timeline. So I thought that they were just not going to move forward with me anymore because I thought y'all had a pressed and hard timeline. And if that's y'all pressed and hard timeline and y'all bringing me on 2 months later, that y'all going to change the deadline. No, they did not change the deadline. And so I'm just like, you guys, we need to come back to earth. We need to come back to earth. Look at how long it took you to onboard someone. Quite frankly, if we did this properly, y'all should have hired me maybe 6 months in advance to really get this going the way that it should. But that's neither here nor there. Questions focused on tools instead of process and strategy. One of the things that got these people so excited about bringing me on was my Salesforce experience, because they had just implemented Salesforce in this department last year. Now, the problem is, just because I have Salesforce experience or exposure doesn't mean that whatever the solution to your issue is something that I can do. Remember, I don't build. Like, I do not build. And you're hiring me as a project manager. So in that job title, I don't have to build anything. So you bring me on, and then once I get an understanding of what's going on here, I actually had to let them know, like, hey, this Salesforce things cannot even be built. I wouldn't be able to build it, but talking to Salesforce and talking to their techs and vendors and stuff, we don't have the capacity to do this, especially in the time frame that y'all want to do it. It's not going to happen. So that's why I had to come up with a makeshift solution to help us get to our end goal, which was still good, but it wasn't as automated as we would have wanted it. And when I say as automated, the solution that I developed just kind of allowed me to bulk send these contracts out, set out some reminders, and then allow it to auto save into SharePoint. Whereas the solution that they thought we were going to build was where I can pretty much push a button in Salesforce and this whole process goes on its own. Like, it'll go send out through DocuSign, it'll auto save to SharePoint. We really couldn't do that because the Salesforce to DocuSign build, it was not something that could be done in 1 or 2 weeks, and y'all didn't have the funds to do that in 1 or 2 weeks. And then also we had the part where SharePoint Microsoft was expired, and we didn't really know that until I started getting into the weeds. Like, hey, where's the folders? In short, y'all so busy focused on Salesforce. Salesforce is not our bread and butter. DocuSign it. That's where we really should have been focusing, but also the process and what's the game plan. And they were looking at me to develop process, strategy, game plan, execution, implementation, all of it. And I'm like, oh, Jesus, please help me, help me. And lastly, no clear metrics for success. That's a red flag. Now, granted, their metric was, hey, last year we was at 40%. We're hoping that we can get to 70% completed and signed contract. I was able to get us to 97%. So we did exceed what success looked like for them. But if you don't see that or hear that in the interview, that's actually always one of my interview questions. Like, hey, what would success in this role look like? What would success in this project look like? If they can't tell me that, you're probably wasting my time. And then first week, first day on the job, they should be able to give you documentation. This is one of the questions that I asked in my interviews. Like, hey, do we already have documents set up, or is it expected that I'm building out these process documents for us? If in the interview y'all told me that y'all have these sets up, y'all have these templates, you have stuff for me to read, and then now we're starting and you can't direct me where to read, red flag. You're the only person on the project. As I stated throughout this whole video, project managers do not do the actual work. You should be working with other people and managing the project timeline and the different tasks that people need to do. So if you find yourself being the only person that is the business analyst, the system engineer, and all that good stuff, guess what? It's a red flag. Unrealistic deadlines with no room for a planning phase. We always need to plan. If a company wants you to jump on in the middle of a situation, they need to have things already kind of set up for you to just pick up and keep going. If not, just know you're in the woods by yourself. Matter of fact, you're there with the wolves. You're about to get eaten alive. Multiple departments involved, but no one owns the process. Everybody's just kind of like, oh, we have the new girl here. Wait a minute, I'm just the new girl. I don't know what y'all got. I don't know how this works. I'm learning from y'all, and apparently y'all thinking I'm about to come and change the game. Okay? It's crazy. You're expected to figure out technical integrations alone. Look, I'm gonna say this time and time again. The role, like the specific role of a project manager, the solution was already developed. We already came up with the solution. Now we need to actually implement. My job as a project manager is to implement this solution by this timeline, with this amount of money, with these people. That's what I do. If I get there and there ain't no other people, then what do we have? We don't have a project. We just got someone here to manage nothing. That's what we have, and we don't want that. So all these red flags are what I want you to kind of keep your eyes out for. I'll be diligent. Now, just because the red flag, as I stated before, it may work to your advantage because maybe you were doing some side projects and you can actually help here. Cool, no problem. But if you don't have that and you're just coming in trying to be a project manager, project coordinator, make sure you're aware that, oh, this is not a true PM job and I don't want it. You have the choice, but I need you to pay attention, be vigilant. Now, if you're like me and you stayed, okay, one thing about it, I ain't leaving money on the table. If you stayed, there's a certain way in which you can add these to your resume, in which I have done. Focus on the outcomes, right? So focus on the metrics. My favorite thing to talk about when I talk about this role is how we got 97% completion. And when I did the math, I think it was like an 85% increase from last year based on how I kind of did the numbers. But I want to focus on the metrics and show you how when I came on, we was able to clear it. Like we was able to exceed or hit whatever the target was. Like I said before, I would list it as like lead process optimization initiative resulting in 97% completion rate. That sound good. That sound like you did some. 97%, that's 3 from 100. Girl, what you did? Like that. That's what we want. Highlight transferable skills. Conducted stakeholder interviews, okay, across 3 departments. Now, I did not write that specifically, but I would make sure that I showed that I worked with different teams. So I do talk about how I work with editorial, legal, and product. So that shows that I know how to work with different types of people. When people see legal, they think compliance, they think risk management. So I know how to engage with a wide range of folks within the organization. Emphasize problem solve. Identified and resolved API integration issues. I'm not gonna hold you. When I did that, I didn't even know what API was. I saw the term and heard the term before prior to coming to this organization. Never really knew what it was. When I found out it was that simple, just kind of connecting the 2 software so they can talk to each other, I'm like, I do this all the time. When you sync your Google Calendar with Zoom to ensure that they can communicate with each other every time you create a calendar invite, you did an API integration. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna talk about that on my resume because it's going to sound more technical. It's going to sound more like an expert, right? It means that I know how to speak to technical teams because I know how to use their language. Show leadership. Designed automated workflow, reducing manual effort by 90%. 100%. This shows that I came in and I wanted my teams to be hands off. So one of the things last year was there was no real process. It was very manual. Everybody's boots on the ground. But since I came in and found a way to create this very automated process, we didn't have boots on the ground. We just had like minor customer support that was needed, but not the intensity that they had last year. Use PM language. Even if it wasn't traditional PM work, frame it in PM terms. On my actual resume for this role, I actually put project manager / business analyst because of those user interviews and all the other things that I highlighted that a business analyst does. And a lot of times business analysts and project managers, their roles overlap and they work together. And honestly, they're my besties at any organization. So I feel as if it was easy for me to speak to the business analyst part because I understood what they did. And then I can kind of like add in how I supported this as a project manager. Address the title mismatch. In interviews, explain how you adapted to expand the scope, or even better, don't put the original title, put the title of what you actually did. But the title of what you actually did. In my interviews, I talk about how I was also a business analyst in this role and how I did a lot of this other stuff and how I actually kind of helped build out and identify the solutions. And it is what it is. What you need to do is kind of focus on the storytelling of how to mesh that story together so it comes out real cohesive and it makes sense. And even though it kind of may not make sense right now as I'm saying it off the top of my head, trust me, it does in the interviews because I prep. Okay? Now, have you ever experienced a situation like this? Drop a comment and tell me about a time where you literally applied for one job and then when you got there you realized that's not it, that's not what I said. What's that Drake quote?
You hate the fact that you bought the dream when they sold you one.
Yeah, sorry, not sorry. We just learn to adapt and adjust and keep it pushing. As always, thank you for watching. I truly appreciate you because you can be anywhere in the world right now, but you're here getting professional development with me. If you haven't done so yet, be sure to join our Discord where it's pretty much a project management community full of resources, and the number one resource is a job board where I post jobs every single day in the US and internationally that are in the project management industry. And so you may be able to find your next role in there. And be sure to follow me on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. If you haven't done so, at Lola the Manager. I'm always here to support and help you in any way possible in your project management career. Be sure to subscribe to this channel for more information. As always, until next time.